years ago, I don't know if you're still following then, but I decided to take this coconut water that everybody was so crazy about, and especially in the
Yeah, I
raw foods
remember.
movement. Yeah, and I thought, this stuff is full of sugar. It's not good to just be drinking this like people are. Yeah, it has a lot of minerals and it's good for you in that way, but it's just too sweet. So one day I decided to put our kefir starter in there and fermented it for a couple of days and started, checking it out. And I thought, oh my gosh, this stuff is interesting. But then over the next couple of weeks, my skin started looking great. And then I started telling all these other people in the raw community out there. I was doing some lecturing, so it was easy to tell people. And they started doing it, of course. And then people would give me feedback, like women said who were in their 40s, their period came back and they
Wow.
stopped having a healthy period. But other women told me that when they did have a period, the blood was so clean and clear and pure. And people with, joint problems, they instantly disappeared in a few days. So I thought, wow, I don't know what this is, but it's good. And then right after that, the first child with autism showed up in my life. His mom called me, and I just told her what I thought would be a good thing, including the coconut kefir. And she actually lived in Charleston on an island called Isle of Palms. And I remember hanging up after talking to her for a couple hours thinking, all right, I told her to get this coconut kefir, make it and send her starter. And I thought, she'll never do it. Who knows even how to open these things? So many of the mothers are just so intent on getting their kids well. She did it. And the little guy's name is Thomas. He was about to turn 3. And today he goes to Clemson, which is a
Wow.
university in South Carolina. He's a really good student. Engineering is his field. And he was the first child to recovered pretty quickly. So his mom, Diane, and I began to pull other mothers together, and their kids started recovering. And at that time, children hadn't recovered. So the young coconut kefir was a really important part of getting those kids on the road to wellness because they have yeast infections, they have a lot of toxins in the body. The coconut kefir is really good for getting rid of toxins and heavy metals like mercury. It was beginning to fix the gut, which was fixing the gut brain issue that they had. So they started talking and being more present in the world. But the thing about the coconut kefir was it wasn't made of dairy. It still had the microbes that are present in kefir. But the other thing is it was easy for their moms to put it into things. For example, Diane, Thomas's mother, she said, I don't think I can get Thomas to drink this. I'm just going to put it in his junky juice. And she never would tell me what that was because she was embarrassed. But it even in the junky juice, it started doing its job. So I
Wow.
have really good stories to tell about the groups of moms and their amazing moms and the many. Eventually, we had over 2,000 people in Bedrock in the Facebook group, and a lot of them were practitioners. And so the word spread all over the world. And people realized how important diet was because at that time, they didn't know for sure. Maybe it had a difference, maybe gluten-free and dairy-free was important, but the kids only got better, a little bit better. They didn't get well. So you have to fix the microbiome, you have to clean the body of toxins, you have to get rid of the yeast infections. So this was, the whole diet and this particular food was a really important part of that.
Hmm. Very interesting. Was there any indication, or do you have any indication now that there's something unique about young coconut kefir as compared to dairy kefir, that it would be uniquely beneficial?
I do think the substrate, the coconut versus dairy, is definitely better for people with gut problems because who can't do dairy are people with gut problems. They have a inflamed gut, a leaky gut, and the permeable gut, the casein in dairy gets through into the body, and the immune system sees it as a foreign, a problem basically, and attacks. So they get a strong autoimmune condition. It definitely affects the brain. Also, the casein that was available, in other words, if they made dairy, unless they got it from like a raw Jersey cow, raw milk, let's say, with from a Jersey cow, which is an A2 casein, or they got it from a goat, which is an A2. And most of the kids had been formula fed. They didn't get that early start Nobody knew anything about it back in those days yet. And so I think that that dairy just simply isn't the delivery system for those particular microbes, which are basically what makes kefir unique in the dairy world is that it's got all the yeast in it, different strains of yeast. By the way, fermented vegetables have all those strains in them too, and they have a ton of Saccharomyces boulardii, which is super important yeast. I'm just always defaulting back to my love for fermented vegetables.
Very
And they ate those too, by the way. They didn't like them at first. Some of the kids took to them right away because kids like sour, pickle taste, but some of them didn't. So the moms would have to do things like, one of the things that worked was they'd take a bowl of the cultured vegetables and then take a bunch of chips, like blue corn chips, and they would scoop up the vegetables and eat them that way. The kids like that. So that started them on the path. But so these were sugar eaters all their life. They're extremely drawn to carbs and sugar. And so if you are, the sour foods don't taste good. So, but as soon as you start to introduce them into their body, their brain changes and their desire for these foods picks up. And I remember one of my first emails from a mom, she said that she was shocked because, the first thing parents would say is, I'll never get my child to eat vegetables. He only eats breadcrumbs, a crust of bread or the crust off the pizza, never eat broccoli. And one mom wrote in and she said, I can't believe it. He crawled up on my lap and picked the broccoli up off my plate and ate it. So their brain is changing and their desire for foods was changing.